Hello and welcome to the Mindful Messenger Show, brought to you by the Liberty Beacon Media Project. My name is Amanda Johnson, and today we are talking to Robert W. Smith about a mindful approach to Parkinson's. Robert's professional roots evolved from a 40-year career as a landscape architect in Denver, Colorado. He was recognized as a leader, mentor, teacher, community activist, and environmental steward, and inducted as a fellow in the American Society of Landscape Architects for a legacy of innovative design and community service. Drawing upon his dormant passion for helping others in need and combining it with a game plan that has literally changed his life, he has embarked on a second career as an author and speaker. His mission is to provide a ray of hope for those suffering from Parkinson's, a debilitating disease of unknown origin and cure. Robert's first book, The Parkinson's Playbook, is dedicated to providing insight into this complex disease, as well as all the tools and treatments that have helped him to put Parkinson's on the defense. Welcome, Robert.
Hi, Amanda. I'm glad to be here today.
Yes, I'm so glad to have you here. And I thought it was really interesting that, Parkinson's isn't something that a lot of us have in our world a lot of the time, right? Like some of us just haven't been affected by it. And then you came into my life, and all of a sudden it was like I started to pay attention to the topic and the disease. And literally just yesterday, I had someone contact me and say, "Hey, I need to write a book about my journey with Parkinson's." And I thought, well, how funny, because I'm talking to this amazing man tomorrow. And I gave her your book because I think it's such a powerful tool for people who are dealing with this disease. So I would love for you to share with our audience what that journey was like for you. Tell a little bit about your story and what it was like for you to decide that you were going to write a book about this.
Okay. The story really starts with my journey in 2006, and that's when I was diagnosed. And the diagnosis is one of the most hard days of your life. Finding out that you have a disease with no cure, and you're headed off into this direction of unknown. So from 2006 to 2010, I was on a variety of drugs, and they weren't working. Some of them would make me sick and nauseous. And I had a career as a landscape architect, and I traveled a lot, and that impacted my ability to take care of myself. I was on the plane all the time, eating airplane food and fast food, and now it's up. And after 4 years of going downhill, I was able to change that pattern with some people's help. But to give you an idea, in 2010, I weighed 182 pounds. That's on a 5'5" frame. That's way too much. I was going through my clothes pretty quick too, from one size larger to the other. But in 2010, I had a friend, David Burnett, and he was into holistic healing. And so he helped put together a program for me that gave me a playbook to go through and improve my life. And he called it Bob's Broncos. And so my first hat that I wore was a Bronco hat. So David knew that it needed some storyline that would get my attention. So that was the beginning of it. And he equated it to all the things in football. And so that became the framework. But what he's really doing was to give me other tools besides medication to change my life. In 2010, I was on a drug that was very bad for me and gave me compulsive behavior problems. And David was the one that stepped in and said, "Bob, you got to stop this behavior. You're going to hurt your family. You're going to lose your job. You can't go on any longer. You have to stop now." And so that was really the beginning point of the end of Bob and his reckless life to one that's happy and able to deal with this disease. And even when I was 2006 to 2010, there was times where I even stopped taking medications. I figured if I feel bad, I might as well feel bad without them. And Can't be any worse, but it was. Um, but we learned that there's two classes of medications: dopamine agonists and carbidopa levodopa. Dopamine agonist didn't fit with my system at all. It wasn't helping with my tremors. It was making me nauseous. It would take me 2 or 3 hours before I could get up and go to work.
Mm.
And then my wife came into a meeting with a doctor and said, "This can't go on. We got to change to get Bob onto something that's not going to disrupt his life as it is." So that's when we switched to carbidopa, and all my bad behavior patterns went away after 6 months. So when you get your medications and you get that little piece of paper and you open it up and you see all these things that can happen to you, they're true.
Mm.
And it's sad, but I didn't realize that little piece of paper could do anything. But it gave a hint of what could happen to you. So with David's help, I turned the corner, and the first thing we started out doing was we changed my diet. I started getting away from fast foods, a healthier diet. We went into the next phase of trying to deal with this. There's people don't realize it, but Parkinson affects you both physically and mentally. And the head part is probably one of the hardest things to deal with.
Mm.
So as David and I went into this, we started to form a team of experts. Anybody with Parkinson's can't do this alone. They need help. And especially as your cognitive abilities start to decrease, you need it even more important to have a group of people. So one of the first people I had, besides the neurologist and the general practitioner, was a psychiatrist. And I saw Mike. I didn't know how he was. So I was seeing Mike every 2 weeks for about 2 years, every other week, twice a month. And so we worked on how to change my attitude and become part of the world again. And so then as we looked at other steps, I started exercising. I went to the gym starting out, and I went 5 days a week. And in the beginning, when I first went to the gym, I had my baggy t-shirt and sweatshirt, and I could see all the other people in the gym. Thinking, oh boy, this guy's not going to last long. They never do. But I kept at it, and after a couple months of 5 days a week of exercise, I started to drop weight. And the inspiring thing was people came up to me and said, "Wow, you lost some weight." You know, it perks you right up and makes you feel good. And so that was a major thing, was to change my mindset.
Yeah.
And the mindset is that my Parkinson is controlled by the lack of dopamine. And dopamine is actually part of being happy. So you can increase your dopamine by happiness.
Mm-hmm.
I'll talk a little later about some of that part of it. But then I included a financial person because I couldn't do the cognitive thing. I had to stop work. I was working 60, 80 hours a week, and that was killing me. And I was on a plane every other week. That's even worse. But I went on disability in 2010. That's when David joined in again and helped me on this path. We started doing supplements, all the things that you want to do on the holistic side, and it's probably been well, 5 or 6 years since I've had a cold. I haven't been sick in one day following this routine of exercise, diet, supplements, healthy mind. All those things weave together to change your life.
Well, I think that was one of the things that I noticed right away about you, was how, you shared about your journey and how horrible the symptoms were and how horrible the side effects were from the medications and how, I mean, you shared a lot here, but in the book you go into even a little more detail about how like this, it wasn't just the disease, it was these side effects that were wrecking your life. Did you, was that a conversation that was had with you? Like, did the doctor say, hey, there are these side effects and they're real, so if you start to see, or was it just kind of something you should have read in the paperwork?
Actually, uh, every time I go to visit him, he asked me if I have any compulsive behavior problems. So he knew that they could have come about. But I always said my compulsive behavior is I work a lot. I'm at work all the time.
Mm,
So that satisfies him that I wasn't doing bad things. But it's very difficult for a person to tell anybody what your deep problems are. And then as they started to come on, I didn't even recognize that I was doing them. I thought I was just having fun. Uh,
yeah.
they can range from drinking to sexual to gambling to drugs. All those things play into it, and you don't know how bad the behavior problems were. And that's when my David and my wife recognized that they've got to do something. They've got to get me on something that's going to not have those compulsive behaviors. Because I had the majority of them, and it was a difficult change to make, but with the help of my wife and David, I was able to do that. And
Yeah.
the psychologist really was the part that helped me the most to say you have all these things that are affecting you, and you can't just take one pill. You have to do a whole combination of things. You need your team players, your exercise person, uh, psychiatrist, all of them play a role in setting Parkinson's back.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that was one of the really fun things that we saw. So you also mentioned that you like football, and so you told me initially that you liked football, and then you started to send me pictures which showed me how much you liked football. And I think that this is really like, I love this. One, because it's part of it's one of the fun parts about what I do with my authors, to help them figure out like what is it that makes them so excited that they could talk about all the time, right? And so when you shared with me that that's what David did with you for a treatment plan, I was like, oh my gosh, that is brilliant, because you had to have been, I mean, it's not something that you're super excited to do, right? Change your diet, start eating more vegetables, take all of these supplements, like go to the gym when you feel horrible. Like these are things that require motivation. And so for him to use that motivation with you, that he knew how much you loved football, and to just put out a playbook like that was so brilliant.
Yeah.
And to make it about that whole piece about the defenses, I think that's one of the things that I loved about the way that it all laid out, that you had the defense is all of the kind of Western medicine, right? You're a neurologist and kind of all of those basic things that you,
Traditional meds.
right? Those initial pathways, right?
Yeah.
And then David comes and he's like, okay, let's build the offensive team. Like, let's get moving down the other side of the field. And so I love that idea, one, because it makes your message so much easier to understand for people. But the second part of it is, and this is the part that I think is the most important for our audience, is if you have someone who is living with some sort of disease, Parkinson's or other, where you have to help them get motivated, like this was a brilliant pass that David did for you, you know, and it was really, really special.
Well, when I was a landscape architect, I had a pretty high-profile career, and really goal-oriented, and doing some big projects around the country, redoing the visitor facilities at Mount Rushmore, and working with Grand Canyon at Mather Point. So these are big-time assignments. And when in Parkinson's, I had to stop because I couldn't do it, but it really hurt that I couldn't have a profession anymore. So that's when the depression comes into play.
Yeah. Yeah, and you weren't just a professional. You were like, that wasn't just a job that you were doing. Those people were like your family. I mean, you'd built this thing together. It was far more than just a 9-to-5 job for you.
Yeah. A lot of working with National Park Service, they're great people, and so they became my support group along the way too. And they taught me how to be a leader, how to deal with people, how to set goals and achieve them. So that background is what helped me decide when we started the Bob's Broncos that I needed to have that same commitment for my work, the book, as much as I did for my work. And it truly set my mind at ease that I had another career.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. When did it occur to you, like, maybe I should start writing some of this down?
The first comment was from my general practitioner. I'd bring in different little tidbits of writing I would do in my journal and pictures of the things I was working on. And he said to me one day, "Wow, you got enough stuff here. People really would like to know what you're doing these last few years to change your life. You should write a book." And then I did start writing a book, but it was very factual. It didn't have a storyline, and it needed Amanda's help. That's where she helped teach me how to write. And so the first half of the book, with all the defense and stuff, is very technically oriented. And the creative part of writing came in on the offensive side. So as I felt better and was able to do things more cognitively, get my brain going again, I always enjoyed the lessons of how to write things and put down just words, free-form words, then do sentences, and then write paragraphs. And don't worry about how many mistakes you're making when you're typing. You can always fix that. And so it helped organize your thoughts and help you put things down on paper.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, what you brought me was an amazing, it captured what you had done so well. And there was that piece that, it was like, how do we make it connect with your reader? Because there are, and oftentimes, I'm not sure about the Parkinson's world, but oftentimes with different diseases, there are these very like educational type books that are very informative, and this is what to do when this, and this is how to do this, right? These are the medications for this. But there's something about, speaking to a person who has this disease. And I watched you, we had lots of conversations because there were parts of your story you're like, I don't want to talk about this. I don't want this to go in the book, and that's not my first rodeo. I have those conversations with most of my clients, but I watched you like not just get comfortable, but actually kind of start to enjoy it, where you were really enjoying that process of, because it feels like, oh, this is a book that I would have liked to have read, where it was more than just information. It was, something that really made me feel like I'm not alone. That's why I always went to the bookstore, right? Like I get shoved out of my comfort zone and I don't have anyone in my world that looks like they know anything about what I'm working through. So you go to the bookstore.
Yeah, and there really isn't a book that connected all the dots. And that's what David and yourself helped do, was to link them all together. So it told a story, but it gave the bits and pieces that you get from a doctor or another friend. And they say, oh, you need to ride your bike, you need to change your eat broccoli. And so you get all these different things going through your head, and you can't organize them with Parkinson. The brain doesn't allow you to do that. So that's why it's important to have even a counselor to talk through things to help sort that out. So I think the biggest thing on the playbook is that it connects all the things to make your life happier and enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love the part, let's talk about the MVPs, because I feel like that's a really huge, well, let's see. First, you talked about the defense and you talked about the offense, and that's kind of like building out your team of all the alternative therapies and mentors, right? Like people like David, who did the Bowen therapy, and what was the other thing that he used with you?
Scanner. And
Yes.
you should probably let the audience know, before I started exercising, David does Bowen therapy, and it's a way to help the body self-heal. So what he did was to align my spine, get my shoulders better, give me better posture, and he was able to take things that were hurting. I had a pain in my hip, my leg. So what he'd do is I put on me on like a massage table, and he would take his hands and roll my thighs and muscles and where the problem was. Then he'd leave the room, and then he'd come back and do the opposite side, the left leg, and he would roll the muscles the same way and leave the room, and he'd come back. And the theory is a good muscle tells the bad muscle what it needs to do to heal itself. That's the whole point of all this, is self-healing. And the other thing we did was scanner. And nobody really knows in the Parkinson world knows about scanner. Scanner is a radio wave treatment. And it was developed by the Russians for space travel. They had no way to treat injuries and problems in space. And they came across this way to use radio wave to stimulate the body to make it to heal itself. And I was a little non-believer, I guess. But, so what I did, he was going through my whole body and looking for where my problem areas were. And it came up to my head and cheek, and finally got so it said, the only thing I can find is everything seems to be centered around your mouth. And I said, I didn't tell you, but I need to get a root canal. So he found out where the pain was coming from. And the other part of scanner is Parkinson's people have trouble with their hands and feet. And so you would put these gloves or socks on the hands, and they would, the radio waves would be like a tingling sensation. So after about 20 minutes or half hour, I had a thumb that was swollen. The skin after that treatment was loose. I could move the muscle. It didn't hurt. So there is something to this radio wave treatment, it's just going to be on the scene coming up. And there's more and more doctors that are starting to think about and use alternative means for healing and health besides just giving them medication.
Yeah. We used it when Aaron broke his wrist, because David was our Bowen therapist too. And when Aaron broke his wrist, we used the scanner treatment, and the doctors were stunned by how quickly the bone healed up. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. So you have all these alternative things from exercise and these treatments and supplementation and nutrition, like all of these big things that you changed. But then the next part is about keeping track. And I love how you kept track of this. And I love that it all got into the book, because I think it's just amazing. When you sent me the pictures, the before and after, I was stunned by the transformation.
Yeah.
What did that do for you through the process? Like, what was that part of the reason why you were doing it, so that you could keep your spirits up and keep noting how much progress you were actually making?
David, as my counselor, always wanted to know how I was doing and how I was coming up along. And so doing these photos, and one of the reviewers of my book just said, I got a lot of guts and gumption to put pictures of myself in just my underwear. But I knew David would want to be able to see my posture, where my hands were at, which shoulder was down, was I jutting forward, was I hunching my back, lessening. So each year, for 4 years, actually I still do it. Last week I did pictures of myself. So every year I take pictures of how my body's improved. And that gives me encouragement, because I can go back and look at 182-pound Bob, and then now the 142-pound Bob. And so it makes you realize where you're at, and you don't want to go back to that way. So it was very uplifting.
Yeah.
And people got it. We're really glad to see that there can be results from this. That it's not just all one thing. It's a combination of things that help you. The wife just said it.
That's okay. Yeah, that's it. I was stunned by the pictures, just to see how much change was happening over time, and that you looked, I mean, you physically, you just looked absolutely miserable in your body. And then I looked at you and I thought, geez, you don't even really look like you have Parkinson's. You know, I mean, the symptomology is it's so reduced for what those pictures were showing.
And what David did too was he made a pinwheel of different percentages of exercise, medications, all the things I was doing. In my first pie chart in 2010 was 98% medication, 1% fun, 1% supplements and good things. And so each year from 2010, the pinwheel became fuller with things I was doing. I was enjoying myself. I was learning to do mastery and pleasure. I was having a more complete life. And so even just seeing that pinwheel change helped a lot. Because what it also did is I had to set goals each year for weight loss and what I was going to do to change my life. And so that became a reward for doing this.
Mm-hmm. I want to know, the people who are watching this, who have loved ones who are dealing with Parkinson's. What is your best advice for them? Because, my grandmother didn't have Parkinson's. She had like the beginning of dementia while I was caretaking her. And um, you know, as someone who loves the person, you see what they're going through, but you can only understand so much of it. And the disease itself kind of creates this separation, right? Like in a lot of ways, especially because it was dementia, I kind of had to grieve her before she actually passed, because she wasn't the same person. And I imagine with your capacity shifting, your family probably experienced some of the same thing, right? There's some things that you guys just possibly didn't do anymore. So what was that journey like with your family, and what would you suggest that people do to support those that they love who are facing this disease?
I think uh, your caregiver or spouse needs to read the book, and because they don't realize all the things you're going through, even though they're your spouse, they can't even pinpoint some of the things that are issues that you have. I think the other lesson learned was being able to talk about it to other people. Uh, it took a long time for us to put out to the world all the things that were problems and what we were going through. So the caregiver is your support person that keeps you on track. My wife says, "Got to go to the gym today, Bob. Can't miss a day." And I go to yoga class and I come back and she'd ask me, "How'd it go?" I said, "Well, we did the pretzel move today. I still can't do that pose." And so lighthearted things are important, and happiness is achievement. And as we're going through this change and learning to enjoy life, I stumbled onto a TED video by Sean Anker about happiness. And first thing in the beginning of the video, he says, happiness is fueled by, or dopamine helps fuel happiness. Here I am with ever decreasing amounts of dopamine, and happiness can help bring that about and reinforce it and help you in this change. And there was like 5 points that he said. You can, if you do these for 3 weeks, you can change your attitude and mindset. The first one was gratitude. Do 3 gratitude things that you're grateful for. Exercise, meditation, journaling, and the last one, random acts of kindness.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do those 5 things for 3 weeks, you're going to start changing your mindset and personality. And I started looking at that, and I'm doing all those things to help. I've watched this video a dozen times because it really made an impact on me. It gave me something to that somebody else believes that these things can help you. Mm-hmm. Random acts of kindness, what to do. And here, this my trainer said, "What do you think of look at these TED videos?" So she's not only helping me get physically fit, but giving me some clues about where I could go to find out more about those changes you can make.
Yeah. Yeah, it's important, all those little things. And that's what I think that's one of the most amazing parts of your book is that piece of that it's like a million little things. It's not just nutrition and it's not just medication and it's not just supplements. It's like it's like these slow building blocks to kind of rebuild your health and your happiness. And I love that piece of the random acts of kindness. So what are your favorite random acts of kindness?
My first one was I got cataract thing through eyes, new lenses put in, and I can't put drops in it. So my wife would need to help me. So I would thank her. So be thankful to even these little things that people do to you, do for you, that can make a difference. Um, Helping somebody that's in need. And that's part of why I wrote the book, was to help others be able to enjoy life more. But any little, they don't have to be big things like going and helping somebody, caregiving for somebody that's bedridden. Little things are just as important. Random acts of kindness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really important. And then I know that we talked a little bit about some of those most valuable players in that last part of your book. And one of them I know was your psychiatrist. And so when you're looking at building your team out, who are those people? You know, you've talked about some of the things that you've done, but when you're talking about the specific people, mentors, practitioners that you really should look for getting on your team, who are some of those people so that our audience knows?
Okay. We talked about most of the team members, from the nutritionist, the physical, to your neurologist, um, your counselor, your even your financial advisor. But my MVP was my psychologist. That the mind games and the mental, emotional part of this disease is really tough. And when, when you lose your place in life, your identity, that's devastating. And you have to build that back up. So meeting with Mike, we started out doing things, different categories, mastery and pleasure. And so we would talk about, what things am I going to master? Of course, writing is one of them. But there's other little things you can do also in the mastery side. But the pleasure side too could be just having fun. Do things you never expected to do in your life. Hop out of an airplane, work with a parachute, river rafting, hiking and climbing a mountain, running a marathon, riding a bike for pedaling for Parkinson's. So each week, every other week, I'm sorry, we would talk about the things that I've been doing for mastery and pleasure, and not to forget that part of it. And he helped me build up the void that was left from leaving work. So we talked about other outlets. We can start volunteering. There's tons of groups out there that can use help. So getting things that are helping other people, that's a random acts of kindness. Living there. Any of those things all tie into it. But there's getting something as a passion to do. That's really what helped really change and focus my life. as a landscape architect, I had built things that were great and lovely to see people use them all over the world. But I didn't have anything, that goal was gone. And then this writing came up. And it gave me a way to write down, and if I'm going to talk the talk, I need to walk the walk. And so it made me conscious that I need to keep up and have a commitment. Because the commitment is really one of the most important things, is stay committed to your program every day.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, that reminds me too of another conversation that we had when we were talking about how you're going to spend your time, you know, because when I'm working with messengers, I'm always like, what are you going to do with the book? Right? How are you going to help people beyond the book? Because usually people are asking for more. And so I'd love for you to share, because there are some real limitations for you, right? Like you're in the best shape you've been in with Parkinson's, and you have to stick to your program to keep those results where they're at. So what does that mean for how you're incorporating your work with your own program, if that makes sense?
What we should probably start with is, I was going to first self-publish. And that, writers and people will want to know, how did I get a book published? And so I was going to go down the self-publishing route. It's expensive, takes time, and marketing a book is a big deal. And it takes a lot of energy. And so to get it printed and distributed on their own is really difficult. And I was able to, I had a doctor friend, and he put me in touch with a publisher that did wellness and fitness books. And so I took my experience from being a landscape architect. I did a proposal. They give you a list of things to respond to. How many pages are there? How many images are there? Who's your competition? How are you going to market this? What are your skills in marketing? And so I put together a proposal. Just like I wrote the work. It took me only a few days because I was skilled at it. And it gave me great pleasure too to use some of the things I had been doing in my entire life. So I did a PowerPoint show that went along with it. I gave him a copy of the whole book. They knew I was enthusiastic and could follow through. It's all a commitment in me to go ahead and take me on publishing the book. So the publishers, Hatherley Press, and distributed Penguin Random House, and it's being distributed worldwide. So that's when I knew that self-publishing wasn't going to get the word out there to the that big of an audience, and it needed to do that. I speak to groups once a month. Last month was the Tattered Cover, a bookstore that's regionally known. And so we do an author talk and then a signing. And when you speak to people about it, the first thing they say, "Boy, you look good. Something's working here for you." So that having that as reinforcement helps. But after I do a presentation of the book, I love the question and answer. that's when they really get to answer or ask you questions, and there's no hold for it. And and I found that there's a whole group of people besides Parkinson people that can use the book. It's a very transferable book. You just have to change the word, the MS, and I had a person there with migraines. I had a person there with heart trouble. And so there's bits and pieces of the book that can help anyone. But people would ask me, what'd you have for dinner? What'd you eat yesterday? What do you do for constipation? They get down to
Yeah.
there's nobody else to answer these kind of questions. But the end result of my talks is they thank me for writing the book. They thank me because I put it all out there with no concern about how I took pictures of myself there, what I ate, what I did for fitness. So they can tell that I had a commitment that I made to keep up with this game plan. But sometimes they don't even know what to say for compliment. It's just thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
What you thought.
Yeah.
So
It does.
you can use it.
It does. It's a long, I mean, it's a hard journey to go through, not just to go through, but then to write it out. It's like a lot of work,
Yeah.
a lot of work. And it's good when you see that it's impacting people.
Yeah. One section that we didn't hit on that much in the keeping track of the scoreboard. I did these little tidbits of things and equated them to terms of football. Turnovers. In Parkinson's language, it's you can't fall. What happens when you fall? And my experiences when I fell, and I hit my head and didn't know how I did it, and I was bleeding. I called my wife at the art gallery, and she came home right away. But you're prone to a lot of different things. When I had trouble with my feet, I used toe socks. You know, because these toes want to always curl under another toe. So you have to keep working at them to keep them straight. So having your feet and hands, being able to spread your toes feels good, and that's really satisfying. So I put those kind of things in. I even put in a section on how to travel. How do you prepare for things? So the first preparation you do is pre-game preparation. You lay out your jersey and your hat and all the things you're going to take, even the tickets. Because I always get a double take from my wife that did you bring the tickets? So there's all those things that I do the night prior, especially even on a trip, business trip or a vacation. I always leave things to the very last minute, and the Parkinson person will get anxious, the anxiety, and it'll make you upset. And we missed a number of planes because Bob wasn't ready. And so that's where I'd come. I take the extra bedroom. I lay out all my clothes for the trip. I pack my suitcase, leave out just what I need to do toiletries the next day. All you do is hop out of bed, get washed up, put on those clothes, and you're ready to go out the door. And it relieves the anxiety of traveling.
Yeah. And I thought that I mean, the amount of detail that you put in as far as looking at all of those different challenges and potential problems that you're higher risk for. I loved all of the tools that you gave people and all of the, and again, I think it's really important for caregivers, like you said, to read this, to understand how to support and what some of the real challenges are and how they can do things like help plan or understand that you need to be a planner, you need to be ahead of time so that you're not feeling anxious. It's really key. So when you're looking at, I heard you say, oh, it was in your intro, you said my first book, which means there's a second book coming, right?
The publisher has asked me to write another book.
Amazing.
So after about 4 months after I got this one out, and we should do one on fitness for Parkinson's or other diseases, but concentrate on the fitness part of it. So that's what I would do as maybe a second book. I've learned a lot since the book is actually published, and they can be incorporated. I can expand on things, but it needs to be another subject, and maybe it's mental and physical.
Yeah. Maybe you could take each part of the book and expand on it.
I just did a little PR kind of deal. I'm going to do a Parkinson's fitness show at the gym. So I'm going to have people come in and Parkinson's and see me work out, and have them give them an idea of the level that it takes to do these things to keep your life going, keep your balance going. And so we do everything in our training sessions, from getting on a BOSA ball, those half-moon balls where you balance yourself. Yesterday we did the BOSA ball, and she would throw me a 6-pound ball, and I had to catch it and throw it back to her without falling. So we're always trying to incorporate exercises that accomplish two things: strength building and work on your mind. She does things that make me think. I can't just do a push-up. I have to do something mental that's part of it to keep me thinking, so I can do one thing after another. Shuffling my feet. We've done boxing. We always do chest openings, keeping your shoulders back. So I thought this would be a good idea for other people to see what a workout's like, and what it takes to maintain a good, healthy, fit body.
And that's amazing because you're helping people while you're doing what you need to do for yourself. Like, when I saw that flyer that you sent me, I was like, that is just so brilliant. It's so brilliant, because that was one of the challenges that we talked about, was how are you going to be able to help people and take good care of yourself? So of course it's, doing them both at the same time, darn it.
Our next thing, we're going to do a video.
Good.
Like a workout sessions, and talk about the things that the exercises will help improve on your body, and how to not hurt yourself, because you can really hurt yourself doing untrained supervision. Hey, I was hurting myself all the time until I had a trainer that would encourage me, but would also keep me safe.
Yeah. I mean, anyone can get hurt at the gym pretty easily, right? Trying to do something, but especially if you have a higher fall risk, well, that could be really scary.
Well, you have all these buff people around you, and they think, oh, I can do this. And that's what you
No,
want. You don't do that.
don't do it. Don't do it. Oh my goodness. Well, Robert, I have loved every second of this interview. Thank you for, oh my gosh, it was so fun to work with you. It's been so great to interview you and watch your journey. Like, I love watching when the universe just conspires, like, I don't know if I should self-publish. Then all of a sudden this opportunity comes and this thing happening with the exercise. And I'm just really grateful that you keep me in the loop and that you were willing to come on here and share your story with my audience. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And before you go, I have those last few questions that I ask everybody in my rapid fire round. Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay.
Fire away.
So what was the first book or message that changed your life?
What book changed my life? Harry Potter.
Harry Potter?
Yeah.
Tell me.
How do I equate that?
Yeah.
Because he made friends with people. He was doing things to help others. He was able to think and come up with different ways to do things. And he had a team. He had Hermione and Ron. And keeping that team together is important.
Yeah.
So it's not. So I get things from the storyline that I can equate that I pull out of it. So it's not just a book on another topic or a mystery. It has a lot of personal things that I can use. I bet you I surprised you on that one.
Yeah. No, I love it. Harry Potter is one of our favorite stories ever over here. So I love hearing that other people love it. What is your favorite book and why?
What is my favorite book?
Mm-hmm. It can be the same one.
I'm reading another series called from Lois Penny, and they're mysteries and taking place outside of Montreal. So I like the foreign mix of French and English and uh, how he solves problems. And he solves problems by listening. And he always tells his detectives, listen, because that's what's going to tell you who did the murder. So that was always one of my points. You have to be a good listener. And those kind of books appeal to me.
That's why we hit it off, Robert, is because we look at story the same darn way. So who is your favorite messenger and why?
Favorite messenger.
Is there someone that you really respect and what they're out there saying and how they're doing it?
I would say that it would have to be David Burnett.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's doing it day in and day out, helping people with all kinds of physical and mental problems, and I can see the joy in his face when he's helped heal somebody. And so that would be my favorite.
Yeah.
Second would be the psychologist. That's the other major part. But of course, there's always my writing team member, Amanda.
It was such a pleasure to work with you on that book and to see it come out the way that it did. I'm really proud of that book, and I'm really proud of how you like jumped in, because I knew you just weren't really excited about the story piece. You're like, I'm gonna figure this out, and you did, and it's so good. The book is so good because of it. So again, I just want to thank you so much for hanging out with me today, sharing your story, helping our audience get a little bit more insight and develop hopefully some empathy and some understanding of what they can do to help their loved ones. And it's been a pleasure.
If they're going to be a writer, the first half of my book was factual. The second part was fun.
Yeah.
That's what I enjoyed the most.
Good. Good. Love it. Well, I want to thank you, and I want to thank our listeners for joining us today. As always, I'd love to hear feedback on this Mindful Messenger show and the messengers that we're bringing to you. And I also want to thank our sponsor, sitechisel.com, and remind you guys that they are offering a 10% discount to my listeners with the code MINDFUL10. So for today, that's a wrap. Thank you, Robert.
You're welcome. Enjoyed it. We're off.